Aurobinji, the 13th shloka today, you were telling that in reference to Gita's chapter number 10.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Gita
So,
chapter 10 is a Vibhuti Yoga where Krishna says that I am this, I am that, I am this, I am that, like that, in I am the good and the bad in everything. Basically saying I am there everything, in everything.
but
If you,
this sloka is not there in Gita. As
no, this sloka is not that, but it is indicating the same thing.
So, Vinodji, this the eternal bliss, that question that you said, were you talking in some other context that you said that we had to call it out, or?
Actually, the three words, na, I was just trying to get exact meanings of that. Okay, because I had not heard of those words. Because the type of this thing, right? The way the mind experiences the happiness, it is basically about that, right? So, one is like just seeing, for example. Second is by having, and third is by actually like enjoying it. I mean, eating the mango, for example. And so having, so these are like kind of. I just like the structuring of it. I had not seen it earlier. That type of structuring. Okay, so that in that context, actually, I was asking. Okay, and then I think the second aspect of it was that when somebody asked that why does it feel like the happiness from the senses feels greater than the real happiness, the real blissful happiness. So I think the answer for that is that typically that blissful experience is not experienced in the first place. Happiness is not experienced except in maybe sleep, for example. So that how do you kind of you know answer that question? And so basically, the people are generally speaking interested in like some permanent kind of enjoyment, which is not really the case, right? So, uh, so exactly how to kind of convey these ideas to people, that becomes a bit challenging usually. So that is, I think, another context which we could discuss here also.
See, basically you'll have to ask them, what is your biggest or the ultimate idea of happiness? Let them define that. Then you can take them saying that, is it limited by time, space, and causation? When they come to the answer that they know there is, it is not infinite, or the anandata or the ananda which we are talking about, the is, and it is not something which is utopian or talking out of the world for that. It is the experience of everyone. Sarvaloka samanyam. Every one of us have that experience, but we do not know it. We do not give importance to that. That state where we were in absolute bliss, unchallenged by time, space, or causation. That glimpse which we get in our deep sleep is the basis or the substratum on which the waking and the dream comes up to disturb that tranquility of the deep sleep. Like the waves appearing in an ocean, a tranquil ocean water, when it is there, it is tranquil, it is absolutely still. But a wave comes, that movement starts, that is like how we get our waking and dream. In that tranquil nature of ours, that purity of our own existence, when these two things appear, we feel that, that is what we are. The waves thinks that they are the ocean. not realizing what is our real nature. That is why most of the extroverted people or people who are looking for things or a solution in the world outside, they think that the waking hours are the absolute reality. Very well knowing that everything which is there in the waking is related to time and space. And where does the time and space itself exist? Have they ever thought about where is the time and space existing? Can you ever thought where is the source for the time and the space? And everything else is within the time and space. From where did the time and space come up? Think. The idea of time and space sprouted from somewhere, no? And knowing that substratum from where the time and space sprout every time, and it subsides back like a wave. The waking comes, like a wave, another dream comes, and between wave and dream and waking, we have the ocean which is tranquil, and where neither the wave, both the waves of waking and dream doesn't happen. Know that that is our nature. That is why he's saying it is not some yogi pratyaksham or a jnani only knows. Even the ignorant to the core person who has never heard about Atma or Brahman also is that. He also is that. That is why he is also having that experience. It is there in animals. It is there in every atom of this world. But we fail to identify and to look in that direction. Kaschid dira pratyagatmanam echat avrata chakshu amradatam ichan. Only if you are courageous enough to abandon the identity that what waking and dream is giving is real. Such a person only can see through that these ephemeral things of waking and dream are not my reality. I am the one who knows the ephemerality of it, and I am beyond that. Only such a person, it shines for itself. Tameva bandham anuvadi sarvam tasya basa sarvam idam vivadi. Only for such person who looks inward, the shining, that is the mantra before that says that, no, is it illumined by that, or is it illumining by itself? That question came, no? Va vivadi. It's such a beautiful two verses. If you can just analyze these two verses alone in Kathopanishad, is enough for you to realize what we are, our nature.
Arvindo, I have a question for you.
Namaste, Ganeshi.
Namaste, namaste. You said this Atman, this Ananda state of mind is for all animals and for everywhere, that Jada and Chetana, everywhere that is present. Only the courageous one will look at it, and even ignorance can have it, rather can feel it. My question is it easier for an ignorant person to realize that truth than an intellectual, one whose rationality is to the brim, that is to the uttermost extent? It's very difficult for the intellectuals to pierce through that, for having that realization of that true nature. Is it true?
Ganeshi, it's very simple. a thing which is available everywhere. For example, space is accessible to everyone, every object in the world, from the atoms to the things which you can think about, the cosmos or the planet or the billion light years of stars and galaxies and all. Space is common to everything. Who knows about space? Only a person who thinks about space can know about space. Others are living, breathing, existing in space, but they do not think about space. This is a gross example of our waking I am talking about. And that which is which is substratum for even for the space. People who cannot think about space, how can they think about that which supports the space? So Dhira, the one who has the wisdom, Dhimantaha, or courage. See, why courage is being mentioned is that to leave the ego or the individuality is the biggest challenge for human beings. When you leave that individuality, you are nothing. You are not what you have been thinking till this very moment. That's in one of my earlier clubhouses, I asked the question to most of the people that, can you ever define yourself this moment without referring to one item from the past second onwards? Define yourself without referring to the past, who you are. You have to even drop the idea of who I am, or the ego or the individuality also, because that is also in the past. From the past memories only our ego and individuality exists. But at this very moment, who you are without referring to the past, can you define it? We can't. That is how our individuality or the ego is clutching us. So, to leave that individuality or ego and to look at our real nature without having the identity who I am, to know the who real I am, you need courage. That is why Dhira, his word is used.
Thank you, Arbinduji.
Hari Om Aravindaji. Thanks for a great session. So, this whole configuration for seeking happiness, there is an object of desire to fulfill that, that's where the birth happened to fulfill that desire. Basically, that's a basic configuration. So, object of desire is perceived through senses, and when those sensations get carried, hence there is a knowledge that I got happiness by perceiving the object of desire. The knowledge is the fundamental crux of it, because the understanding is that happiness is due to the perception, number one. Number two, the whole object of perception are cleverly created. The beauty is manifested to perceive it. The male female counterparts are created to perceive each other. The food, very well, the nature creates the fruits, attract the very, animal to eat it up, to has its own reason to transmit those seeds into the nature to grow more. But the beauty of the creation, the intelligence of creation is such, you are supposed to desire that fruit. jump and get it, eat it, perceive the happiness out of it. That's a basic configuration of perceiving, getting it, and feeling that content meant for that moment, and move on to the next object of desire. This is the fundamental, this intelligence that created it to perceive in this way. And here we are. Hey, break away from this. They're saying break away from this. One question is, can that eternal happiness be perceived by looking out? For example, a person of bhakti perceives this whole manifestation as his creation. The devotion, will that satisfy a seeker like this? Or it is necessary look inward to get it? Because for that moment, any perception after object of desire is perceived, the mind calms down. Hence, there is a fundamental character of this whole, all the mechanics of this is, it is that pleasure manifesting is inside out or outside in. That's a crux of the question. Maybe we can discuss. Is that inside out? It is, manifesting inside out or outside in.
Venkatji, first and foremost, there is no inside out for this truth. That is Sarvagatam Susushma. It is absolutely cannot be pinpointed. What the way you define Stri, Purusha, all dualities do not stand in its shining. Just as in the sunlight, there is neither good nor bad, both are illumined in the same way. In this light of knowledge, there is no male, female, which are all aspects of the waking. So the inside out aspect also is relative to the waking world only. Here we are talking about the basic truth which is beyond all limitations of time, space and causality. That to conceive that or to apprehend that by mind has to become no mind. Only when the mind becomes no mind, it can glimpse that. And that the only state we have as an experience is in our deep sleep. But is from the deep sleep, the waking and the dream comes up, which is camouflaging the presence of the deep sleep state, which is available even during waking and deep dreaming. But that objectless state from where objects are appearing and going back has to be a personal way of looking at from individual's point of view. You cannot look from the world outside, because in the world outside, the objects have already come. You cannot see the screen when the movie is going on. You cannot see the tranquility of the ocean when the waves are bashing the shore. You cannot see the of the space when you are seeing through objects. You have to go beyond the space to know what supports the space. So even the objectlessness of the space, which is not comprehensible by the mind, has to be dropped or has to become none. Then only you can understand what is supposed substratum for even the space. Tasmat akasha sambhudaha. From that the space appeared, is what the Shruti says. So any references to the waking objects, you will never be able to touch that. Na lipyade bahya dukkhena. It cannot wet, it cannot touch. That is why it said asparsham, arupam, avyayam. What are the words which are used by the Shrutis? Asparsham means which do not have which cannot be touched. Arupam, which cannot be which doesn't have a form. Avyayam, it doesn't have limitations. Such a thing cannot be comprehended by the mind outward. You can experience only it within your own bosom, because you are made of that. Sarva Atma. It is saying it is there in every Atma, every Buddha, every creation, from the tiniest boson or quartz or whatever maybe human beings can find out today or tomorrow. From that to the largest which you can think is the universe. Every nook and corner, it is in everything, or everything is in it, rather than that saying that it is in everything. Because everything which comes up inside the space has space in it by default, same way.
I see the joy in this, Venkatji. As Arvindji was speaking, everything we talk about and we try to discuss are just models in the end of the day. The qualities as Shri Arvindji described, they go beyond. The models get destroyed immediately. The models end where it begins actually. But to talk and to understand, things have been given so.
Yeah, Arvindji, it's such beautiful to hear you. You are so directly pointing toward that state, that this awake state and dream state has to go, and the one who is watching this has to go. Then the space is felt, and the substratum of that space by nature is nothing. You are talking about what Sunny Bhaiya says that, when Shiva also dissolved, the fifth space. And I'm having, goosebumps. How can someone talk about which has no attribute, no form, everything is into it, and yet it remains the absolute pure space. Substratum of pure space, words are not there. I'm wondering how beautifully you are saying it again and again and twice. You know, Definitely first time I feel like, where are your feet? And I would like to know that how come you are experiencing that state, and from there those words are coming. And it's like the biggest delight, which can happen, the bliss. It's like, I have no word for your beauty and whatsoever you are, Before that, I used to think you're a serious person. When you go away, we had a party.
Yogji, that's why I always say Namaste Arvindji, Pranam Arvindji, and Charan Sparsh.
Absolutely, Arvindji. First time, like Charan Sparsh is like little small word. Through Sunny Bhaiya, I have learned, to your lotus feet, the thing which I am not, that not is, going to you. So what a beauty. It's like definitely, hats off.
All the credit goes to the rishis, not to me. I am only an instrument in translating what they have mentioned here.
But Arbindoji, you are so steadfast in that, and I feel what you are explaining as the dhira, it comes only through consistent steadfastness in that particular truth. And that one quality amazes us. The conviction with which you speak, and you are at it. That's what I feel personally.
First time, Arvind ji, I have never felt what would have been Rishi Vasisht ji or Rishi Lomas ji or any great Rishi, I felt they are speaking through you. But for me, in the screen, you very rightly said, when the movie is going on, screen is being missed. But at the moment, the screen itself is, at the front face. What a beauty, I really loved it the way you said it, Arvindji. Again, 1,000 times to your lotus feet. That's the only way in the word I can convey the gratitude. It's really you are to the point. My goodness. So, hats off, sir.
Namaste, Arvind ji. I have a question.
Namaste.
So my question is similar to what Venkat ji has asked. So I don't know which master has said this statement, but definitely I read it somewhere that a master has said. Maybe it is Sri Ramanujacharya ji. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly, but he said, I would rather have the juice of the happiness of the juice of bhakti, um, the happiness of juice of bhakti in chanting the name of the Lord than the actual sakshatkara of the God Himself. Means, from what I interpreted from that is more than the realization, He is more delighted in the happiness of the uh, bhakti. Of course, I understand. Uh, Even this happiness has its source in the final uh, uh, being, final source, what is there, the Parabrahman. Everything, whatever kind of experience we have, however great that happiness might be, in whatever forms it might be, ultimately the source is the same for all. That I understand. But it, again, my question is it possible that someone enjoys this happiness, the happiness of bhakti, more than the peace of the final state? For example, would someone enjoy the calmness of the ocean or the various forms of happiness in the form of waves? Would someone enjoy more of this than that? Is my question. Is it possible?
I think we are misunderstanding what the great master Ramanuja mentioned about. I would like rather to enjoy the bhakti rather than be one with the Paramatma when you are one with that. When he meant by that, what he meant by that, with our limited mind, we are thinking that he is referring to separatedness of the reality and the enjoyer who is separate from reality. How can everything which is made of that separate from it to enjoy it other than being one with it yet enjoy it? When Ramanujacharya mentioned about it, he is talking about sharing that happiness of his experience with the people outside. Because he saw that people outside are not able to enjoy it the way he is enjoying it. So he had to show this to the world outside that there is this enjoyment which I am enjoying it. You also have the potency to enjoy it. That don't stop it at that. Come to this very, very source of happiness. But with the limited mind, people thought Raman, he is also referring to there is separate one entity called Paramatma. Can ever the waves be separate from the ocean to enjoy the ocean? Tell me 1 minute of the wave away from the ocean to enjoy the ocean. Then I'll accept what he said is the way in which you explained it.
Thank you, Arvind.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, Venkat.
Yeah, sorry, I think I got thrown out and came back and corrected my headset. So I was trying to put it in three parts. One is sense of enjoyment, and there is a manifested experience. We can call it as ananda, and there is absolute. So this equipment an individual born with, either Agnani or Agnani, there is a manifested experience that is constant as either the mind is silent or it gets sense of object satisfaction, it goes silent, and this manifested experience is felt you know incorrectly as I got it. So this ananda is a nature of the atman. That's the nature of atman. That ananda is a manifest, I call it as a manifested nature. So we are talking about this manifested nature, and eventually the absolute, that's what it is. Now, there are two parts to it, right? One is the design is such you look out for completing your object of experience. Hence, this manifested nature prevail and gives you a false idea. The false idea is also recorded in the individual that I got happiness by touching that object. The crux of it is identifying this is my original nature. That is the dhira who looks at and finds it out. This is one way of looking at it. The second way of looking at, somebody who cannot, you don't call him as dhira, a bhakta. He will, worship that very nature, that creating, the objects of experience, and surrenders his mind or ego, whatever you want to call it, experience the same bliss that of a one who recognized it by knowledge. What is the difference between these two? It is one and the same end of the day.
Your question, Venkatji, how do you compare this one and the same? In what aspect are you comparing that? Is what I am not able to understand.
The comparison is such. This moda pramoda. Is there any word that we can beyond these three? That
the only word the Shruti says is Ananda.
So it is not even a bhakti equivalent. No.
No. For bhakti, okay, there has to be two things. In Bhaj Sevayam is the root from which bhakti, the word bhakti is formed in Sanskrit. And for seva, you need a sevyam which is worthy of bhajana or seva, or where you can do the service. And the servant and the serviceable, the pedestal or the comes from two things. One is apakarshata and utkarshata. That something is superior to me and I am inferior to these, so I am the servant to that and I am servicing. Now here the Upanishad says that ekaha bhudantaratma sarvagataha sasushma. When everything is that, how can there be superiority and inferiority for servant and the serviceable exist in that? that idea of bhakti, that I have to do devotion to something, can come only when there is something devotable and I am a devotee to those devoted or devotable one. That separation comes from separatedness of two. But when you are saying that, the Shruti says, the Upanishad says that Ekam Sat Vipraha Bhuvada Vatanti. There is only one truth, and the learned say they are all the same. And all the Upanishads say that Tasya Bhasa Sarvamidam Vibhati. In that knowledge of that is everything which is appearing to be shining. So there that inferiority, superiority is appearing to be in the all object also, is a creation of the knowledge. And when you do not know what is that knowledge or the truth of that knowledge, the apparent differentiation which you create in the world outside is because of the ignorance, which we call it as avidya or maya. Or that ignorance of the not knowing that every atom is of the same creation or the same matter in which, or same material which everything is made. The difference between Venkat and Arvind is only in the name and the form. But the substance, the substratum for Venkat and Arvind are the same. You are not different from me. It is that ignorance which has separated, made the separation between you and me. You call yourself, I call myself. But in reality, if we look into deep in within ourselves, are we not the awareness with which you know the everything, and the same awareness which I know everything? In your and my awareness, which is the same thing, everything else is appearing in that. So how can you say that I am separate, I am separate? If both of us are the awareness, and in your awareness the world appears, in my awareness my world appears, the world which is seen by you and the world which is seen by me are not different. The qualities or the adjectiveness which we give through our mind can be different. But the object, fire will be fire, water will be water, the sun will be the sun, the moon will be the moon, for you and for me. It is your awareness which is shining them and my awareness which is shining them. The sun is not yours, the sun is not mine. The sun is of the awareness. So therefore you are not different from me. But when we differentiate it because of our limitedness of the mind or the ignorance, then you are there separate, I am there. Same is the case when you do bhakti also. You are separating out the two things. And then there is something superior to whom you can do the bhakti, and you are the one who is inferior who will do the bhakti. That attitude itself is because of the ignorance of the separatedness. Shruti says there is no separatedness.
Absolutely.
Now,
The final
the one who makes the difference says for him, samrityum mrityum apnodi. He goes in the cycle of birth and death again and again.
Absolutely. The final shloka we concluded today, that Atma Jyoti, all pervading Brahma Jyoti. This defines the whole in a way. Nothing more than this, nothing less than this. Now, this is one all pervading reality. Then, the experiential part of the reality need the two to experience itself. You can call it para bhakti. Para, again, it points back to the truth. Self-service, again servicing through even any seva happens, is a self-service. Serving the self, perceiving the self. Not only perceiving the self is in the other. There is no gap left. This whole experiential part of anything, everything, need the two this whole creation is so done to experience the self. The touching of the nature of the self, again happening through the senses, to touch and perceive and feel happy about it. This design is such, while there is a absolute truth of everything, then there is an experiential truth of everything. These are the two contrasts. There is no difference in this, but the design is like this. That's the most interesting part.
Venkatji, somehow that I'm not able to see from your viewpoint how you are making those differences.
No, our only difference is in the ignorance than anything else. That's all I'm saying. The ignorance has to be lost and the right knowledge prevail. Then there is no difference in perceiving the reality from the sense of perception versus recognizing the truth. There's no difference in anything at all. That's all I'm saying. The perceived happiness versus eternal happiness, there's no difference between these two. It's only the ignorance that differentiates it.
Indeed, that's the final deal itself, Venkatji. I'll read a few lines in English itself from the Vijnana Bhairav Tantra itself. And generally, Tantra is considered that, oh my god, the chakras are there, everything is there, these guys are walking something else. But Bhagwan says that, Devi, now I'll tell you the most secret part of Tantra. And then he says these things. He says, oh Devi, the sakar aspect of Bhairav is insubstantial, the form, and of no spiritual value, like the illusory dream like web of Indra, and is also like the delusion of celestial musicians. Then Bhagavan says the Sakar sadhanas are described for those people of deluded intellect who are prey to distracted thought patterns or are inclined towards the performance of action and ostentatious rituals to traverse the path of meditation. So I see the grace how ignorance is utilized to go beyond ignorance. In reality, the essence of Bhairav is not the 9 forms, and it ends the whole Tantra here, nor the garland of letters, the Malini Vijyottara Tantra also goes, nor the 3 flows, the Nadis also go with this, and not even the 3 powers of Shakti. His form cannot be perceived in Nad, so the Anant Nad also goes with this, and Bindu, nor even in the obstructed half moon, nor in the piercing of successive chakras, nor in Shakti, nor in energy constitute his essence. These things have been told like the tales used to frighten children to induce people of immature intellect to follow the spiritual path, just as the mother entices her child with sweets. Ultimately, the state of Bhairav cannot be measured in terms of time, space, or direction, nor can it be indicated by any attribute or designation. So everything is a story itself, Venkatji, but enjoying the models because the mind enjoys the models itself. So they have been given, but the Tantra itself has ended the whole Tantra, I would say.
What a beautiful Swamiji, and Nad also has to go. So beautiful.
I have a question. If everything is a story, it should be still possible to experience that story, right? So if the self in me should be able to experience the self in other things outside me, am I seeing that right?
Yeah, this is what I explained also. See, you cannot see yourself further. The eyes cannot see itself, the ears cannot hear itself, The sense organs cannot perceive themselves. The mind also, while in thought, cannot see the thoughts. It can only perceive the thought which has just completed. A thought which has been completed will become aware for the mind, but not while minding that about that thought, what it is minding. So, the paradox is that the one which you are looking is there present in everything, just as you cannot see it within yourself. That same thing which is there in everything, you are there also. How can you see that there? When you cannot see it in you, how can you see it there? It is not visible in outside because you are there in them also. But what you are seeing is the name and the form that is attributed to them. And your presence in that is not seen by that. Only a person who has realized that what you call infinitude within himself, or that pure knowledge of awareness in himself, he can see in awareness. He can be the awareness. He cannot see it in awareness. He can be the awareness. And he sees that all the names and forms are also appearances in awareness. He do not see the awareness in them. He knows that it is a knowledge. The
It's a
awareness is a
recognition.
knowledge.
Yes, it's a recognition.
Yes.
Yes.
So it cannot be seen. You cannot see the knowledge. When you are seeing the attributions of an object.
But
You are not knowing the knowledge of the object.
you can
The
see.
knowledge is happening within you.
You can see with your spirit, and that is how you recognize it, because you feel it within. You see it within. You recognize it within. Because
It is the
that's
same.
how
What is within is what is there outside also. So how do you see it? You cannot see it separately.
Because if suppose I go to my daughter, and my daughter has the same oneness in her, or even you, and I recognize within the connection, the feel, the awareness, because you recognize it within. And it's not that I look at your face or your body, but you sense it with your energy, with your spirit, within. With the awareness within, you recognize the awareness in the other. But you don't see it with the eyes, you don't hear it with the ears, or you can't even speak about it that it makes sense. But you can become one because it's the same. Do I make sense?
Yes, you do. You are making sense. As you rightly said, you cannot objectify it.
No, absolutely not.
But then one thing which you are missing out in your statement is that you are experiencing, or your inner spirit, or realizing there in your daughter or in me, there is a sense of separation which you are bringing into that picture. Your
No,
daughter is
no,
separate
no,
from
no,
you.
no.
That should not happen. If that is not there, then you are right on track.
Right. No, there is no separation
Yeah,
because at
if you
that
are, if
moment,
you,
at,
right. If that
because that
separatedness is not there,
right. No, there is no sense of separation. The separation is only in the body and the mind.
right?
But in the energy of the spirit, the self, that becomes one at that moment, and there is no difference. But there is only separation when we meet. There's only separation of the body and the mind.
Namaste, Arvind. Could you, maybe it's too short a time left for you to go into reincarnation, but could you talk about the mythology around what what dies, what survives, and our concepts on rebirth as much as you can in the time that you have. Thank you.
See, the birth, reincarnation, appearances, all are only in our waking state of awareness. So in the waking, the experiences is in time and space of the waking. The time and space of the dream is different. The time and space of the deep sleep is different. So the reincarnation, rebirth and everything which we are talking about the waking is only for the waking. And for that purpose, for those who are not able to shift their identity from the waking to that infinite awareness with which all the three states are appearing in it, to such people, the Upanishad, as well as even in the Kathopanishad earlier, it was said, no, what happens is that the there is this rebirth, which is mentioned as like the space entering another pot. A pot was destroyed and another pot was made. The space entered from one pot, which was destroyed, and it entered into another pot. But in reality, do such events takes place? Pots may come up and pots may get destroyed. For example, that other example which I explained to you the other day. Imagine a lake. In the summer, there is no lake. Water has all evaporated. The monsoon brings in again water into it. So the lake comes alive. So the lake is now bound. When it's in the summer, it becomes dry. The lake is dead. There is no lake. You can't call it as a lake. But the water which comes in and goes out, can you say it is the same water which comes and goes out? No, because that water cannot be limited to that locality of this water lake. Same way, the bodies which are appearing in awareness are made of awareness. In awareness, the bodies appear. The appearance is by default because of the sense organs limitations. So the body and reincarnation which we talk in the waking is exclusively for the waking. And in the waking, you can tell that yes, there is reincarnation, like the pot coming up, holding the space, pot getting destroyed, another pot coming up. But for the space, the awareness in which it comes and goes has no change. It is aware, in awareness, everything comes and everything exists in awareness. Into awareness, everything goes back.
What part survives of the mind? What, structurally, what is it that survives and is reborn?
What survives, what goes back. The mind is basically a matter which is made of earthly nourishment. It has been shown even in the Chandogya Upanishad, an example where the father tells the son, "O son, stop eating food for 16 days and come back on the 16th day, and I want you to chant the mantras of the Veda." The child comes back on the 16th day after without taking the thing and says that I cannot remember the Vedas because my mind is not working. I cannot even remember. There he wanted to prove that the mind is nourished by the food which he eats. The only thing he was allowed to drink was water, because water is required for life to survive in the physical body. So he was allowed. So that example is very clearly says that it is the matter of the food which converts itself into the mind. So there it is a very clear picture given by the Shruti, is that if that is the case, when the body is destroyed, The mud or the matter with which the mind is made is also part of the body. It goes back into the constituents from which it has come, whether it is calcium, phosphorus, DNA, or whatever it may be, which human nature can define it in different ways. It is scientific in nature, but what in the philosophical nature it is that it is an earthly compound with which the mind was made. It goes back into the earth, and the same earthly compound comes up with somebody else's body. So that body may carry the qualities of the one which has gone back into the earth. It comes back, you see, like a clay pot which gets destroyed and becomes mud clay again mixed up, and because that is made again into another pot later, will have the tendencies of the earlier clay in it. It may get new clay and part of the old clay mixed together, a new pot will come up. If you are really looking into microscopic level, you will find that patterns have got the same mix of old and new in it. Same is the case with our human body also. But this is all explanations for the waking mind to get satisfied. In reality, nothing happens.
Wow. Arvindoji, today you are speaking the ultimate truth, The substratum of the space, which is absolute nothing, and when that truth is so powerful that when glorification of male, female body, glorification of bhakti, and everywhere you do see that there is some superiority, inferiority. Then there comes this question that I'm so loving, I'm so connected, the bhakti of a self, and you reach it out so that at the first step I feel that there is a separation. That's when you're going to meet your brother, mother, father, sister. My goodness. And your truth, the truth of wholeness celebration is fragmented. They are making the point. It's nothing wrong. It's the absolute truth. But from the point where you are standing, that nothing is today, beating with the ultimate celebration of, Shiva, Shakti, male, female, the when you are doing the divine bhakti and everything, so beautifully you're just putting aside which thing will take birth, which thing is, if the way you said it, for awakened mind of this lower reality to satisfy that this birth and death is happening there, what's happening, it's beyond happening and not happening. My goodness, Arvind, how come repeatedly you are bringing the truth, and even the largest truth of this dual world, they are also the ultimate truth, but they are not standing anywhere. Keep it up, Arvindji, again 1,000 times, this nothingness is going to your lotus feet. Thank you, sir.
Arbindoji, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Is Sakshi Bhava and observer are both same? And is it an adjective to me?
The Sakshi Bhava, observer, both are the same. Sakshi is basically observer. The Sakshi Bhava is possible only when there is something to be observed. The observer name comes when things are there to observe. But when the observer sees that it is he himself which is appearing as the observed, then there is no separate observer and observed. Trishudamasu yadbhogyam bhokta bhogascha yadbhavet tebhyo vilakshana sakshi chinmatroham sadashivam is the Upanishad mantra which talks about this. Trishudamasu, the three states, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. In each of them, there is threesome. The subject, the object, and the relationship between the subject and the object. In the waking it is there, in the dream it is there, even in the deep sleep it is there, because the sleeper is there, the knowing of nothingness is there, and nothingness as objectlessness is there in the deep sleep. In the waking world is there, The observer of the waking world is there. The experience of experiencing the waking is there. In the dream also, the dream world is there. The dreamer is there. The dreamer experiencing the dream world is there. So in all the three states, there is the threesome of subject, object, and the relationship between them. But I am aware of the three states of mind and the three in each of the states. I am knowing them. That I observed my objects in the waking. I was the observer of the waking. I observed it as a relationship. I, the dreamer, dreamt the world in the dream, experienced the world. I knew I dreamt. I knew I had a sleep where I knew nothing. So I am the one who is knowing the changes of the three also. The one which was in the deep sleep, the one who became dreamer, the one who became the waker also, I am aware of the changes of the three. So not only the three in each of them, the three changes also I am aware of it. So I am the observer of all that. I am never part of the changes. So Tebyo Vilakshana Sachi, I am separate from that because I want to explain that, then I become the observer. But are they separate from me? Only when I was there, these things experienced. It is in my awareness the three experiences came. So Sadashivam, I am that. Ebyo Vilakshana Sashi. Chid Matroham. The Chid Matram is awareness alone. The pure awareness I am, in which these appearances came. Sadashivam, ever pure, ever Mangalam. So the observer is a nomenclature given when things are there to observe, but they are only used for the experience, to explain the experiences. But the observer without the objects of experience is pure awareness, where he is not even an observer, not even the Sakshi.
So
So
finally,
it's also removed, no, from me. That observer also can be removed.
Yes.
Arvindji, you butchered and murdered Sakshi Bhav and observer also, but with love. Enough of observing, in this awake state and which is really don't exist. Wow, so beautifully. That observer things also so beautiful. Thank you, sir, for liberating people from, nonsense observation. And they think that, they are observing so beautifully and they can't observe, the fruitfulness and nothingness of that observation. Wow.
The beauty of the devices I see. Because they are required, because the moment that's why I remember so much of the Guru Seva was there, so many things were there. And then slowly, in fact, the part of the Tantra I read is the most secret part of Tantra, Bhagavan says. Because earlier, if those things are said, then one is like, okay, I don't have to do anything, and I don't have to be observer also, I don't have to do any devotion also, and then carried away by the mind. So that's why the models were required actually. So I think, I celebrate the devices too. They are also beautiful, and that's the grace.
Yeah, Saniji, devices are so important, but today, Arvindji destroyed all three devices. Bhakti, the love, the observer of Sakshi Bhav, and then, the Leela, the experience. All these devices were destroyed so that you know the ultimate. Wow. So thank you so much, Arvindoji, for liberating.
And that is the joy in this again, Yogji. As Bhagavan says in the Gyan Bhairav Tantra itself, that it is just like these devices, all these chakravakra, everything is given, just like the mother gives sweets to the children to entice them. So answers given to the waking state, because saying that it is everywhere, Kathopanishad says it, but like, okay, I do not want to contemplate it, right? So, so let's give you something to contemplate upon then, so that you arrive at this final thing. So I see the joy like this, Yogji.
Yeah, Sanjay. Today he also said that, for some people, the so-called this ordinary awake dreaming state, he said that, for you, if you want, you are taking birth, you are observer, you are the ultimate reality. He also gave some sweet, through the love. But in the reality, he said that, there's no sweet, no giver, no taker, such a beauty, So wow, he has taken away all the sweet, and people are, wanting sweet again. I'll, I'll become Sakshi, eternal Sakshi, and they are bored yet, I'm Sakshi, observing myself, Come on, what is nonsense, Who's observing whom? Are you not bored? And yet, millions here I'm observing. Wow, Arvindji, so beautiful. Arvindji, I have a question for you. How you got this realization? I knew Risija is speaking, but your journey, that okay, it's the ultimate liberation and liberation from liberation also, and that state is all the time there. It's not that you reach there, you are already that, and yet this drama happens. People are loving that drama, that I am separate entity. In the reality there was no separation, not a possibility, yet drama happened. Some people call it beautiful drama, like love, devotion, loving ourselves, observation. But for you, how you reach to this state, what have been your, stimulus and, the process? Thank you, sir.
Tat chindanam tat kadanam anyonyam tat prabodhanam. I've been talking about that. I've been discussing about that. And the very purpose I am here in a clubhouse is that I have like-minded people with whom I can discuss that. And each question, when it comes, it only establishes more in me that, it is what we in the technical term we call it as fixing a pillar on the ground. Each hammering you take it, then you shake it and pull it out, then hammer it again
Oh, God.
to such a state that the pillar can never be shaken and taken out. That is the state at which I want to be there. So all questions are only helping me to hammer it further into the reality that is the truth.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, with all your permission, I'll take leave. We'll have the next Kathopanishad on next Wednesday. No, today's Wednesday. Friday we'll have the first part of the next Valli, and then in the following Wednesday we will conclude it. So see you on
Yeah.
Friday.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Arvindaji.
Arvindji. Sharon
Thank you.
I think at least we need 2 sessions to complete that. We can do
Yes.
that.
Okay. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.